Hello! It's been a while since we've done a restoration video, and today we're going to take a look at the MPC 3000. Now unfortunately this is not mine. This MPC belongs to a friend of the channel. A lot of people reach out to me quite often and ask if I can help with a synth or an MPC. Unfortunately I'm here in Melbourne, Australia, where it's quite cold at the moment, and most of you are in other parts of the world. The cost of shipping things at the moment around the world is just crazy boots. So what upgrades are we going to do? We're going to do them all. So the first one is we're going to max out the RAM. We're going to change out the display. We're also going to change the floppy drive, and in its place we're going to put a Zulu SCSI, which in many ways is a redevelopment of the old SCSI to SD. So also we're going to replace all of the tact switches, which is an absolute of a job on the MPC 3000. We'll get to that soon. We also need new pad sensors. While the unit itself looks brand new, the pad sensors themselves need replacing. They're not so great, so we'll do that. And anything else I've forgotten? I don't think so. But if there is, we'll get to that as we go. So without me rambling on any further, let's kick off. Let's start working on the MPC. So this is it. And as I said, it's in remarkably good condition. Besides the wear on the data entry knob, pretty much the rest of the MPC looks absolutely mint. Nice pink floppy there. So it's important that I cover the face of the MPC so I don't scratch up that awesome paintwork, and probably remove the data knob before I actually put too much pressure on it and do any damage. So that comes off pretty easy with a bit of a pull, and then all I have to do is actually remove the screws from the bottom. So trying to take this as fast as possible. And I'll slowly lift the top there. You can see that it was still held back, and it's really important when you're going into something for the very first time, you've got to move things very gingerly so you don't actually stress anything. So the next important thing is to take lots of photos. So there are tons of connectors all over the MPC 3000. So the best thing I can do is take photos, look for anything that's not totally unique. Anything that's not unique is a connector, and I could get it confused with something else. I'll make some unique markings on either end, so the part where it connects to the board as well as the cable itself, with a Sharpie. That way I can always match it up and put it back with ease. And that's what I was trying to remember earlier. We're also going to do a ROM upgrade on this, so we'll take it to the latest the latest ROM upgrade. So we've got that. It's in really awesome condition. Let's get the floppy drive out of there, and then we'll have a go at upgrading the RAM. So just 4 screws on the bottom, really easy to remove, and an easy upgrade for pretty much anybody if you're wanting to do a SCSI mod, such as putting the Zulu SCSI in there, or if you're just wanting to put a GoTech in there and just run virtual floppy images. Really nice, really easy. So you can see with a very slightly damp cloth there, I'm just doing a bit of cleaning. You can't really pick it up on the camera. Like I keep saying, this MPC was really mint. Now there's going to be a few things in this video where I complain and curse AKAI a little, but I must say they used really good RAM sockets here. Really easy to reinstall the RAM. I didn't have to stress about plastic breaking. It was good metal edge connectors, good metal springs on the end, really high quality, and once again, really easy to do. So removing the original RAM module, the last thing we want is to do this upgrade and have memory conflicts or anything like that. And I like to put the original screw back in just in case we need it later. So once again, lots of cables to get out of there, so more photos, more tear down, and as I said earlier, really go slowly. Some of these screws are getting a bit old and they're a little tricky to remove, and the last thing you want to do is actually thread one of the screws or break the head off, and then you're stuck with hours of getting that screw out. So a bit of caution can go a long way. And you can see I'm just checking it over, making sure there's nothing I need to be aware of on the front. And here I am actually marking up one of those connectors. I know that that one's too close and looks too similar to the one above it. So a quick mark on there will save me a lot of headaches later. So once again, you can see that where the slider and selectors are, that's quite stuck to the faceplate there, so I'll slowly sort of release that from the front. That way I'm not pulling too hard on the PCB and everything should be good. So time to start doing the very tedious work of removing all of these buttons and then slowly removing the tact switches. Now once again, I just took a photo of the front of the MPC's buttons there, just so when I go to put it all back together, it's really easy to see. I don't have to go searching on eBay or searching on Google to actually see the way the buttons should go back and which colours go where. You can also see as I'm taking the buttons off, I'm just putting them into a bit of soapy water. Again, my hands are going to go over my face in horror. So for some reason, not sure why, AKAI decided to use a different tact switch on the MPC 3000. So the tact switches that we're replacing have long legs that go through the board, are soldered from underneath, and AKAI have bent the legs over on every one of these. So it's going to take a long time. First desoldering, then unbending the legs, then removing the tact switches. Once again, unlike the MPC 60, you can't just cut them away from the top, or you can't do that without risking quite a bit of damage. So we're in for a long haul removing these tact switches. I've set my mind, we're in for a long haul, let's get these tact switches out. Time to get the trusty soldering iron out, time to warm it up and start removing these switches. Now I'm going to start on the smaller board here, that way I get to test the technique and sort of refine it a little before I start working on the 40 or so other tact switches on the big board. Now you've noticed I've moved the little tub that I'm putting all the dead solder into, and the reason I've put it right there is that seems to be where my hand's naturally going every time I'm taking the solder off the board and sort of dumping it into the bucket, and it just makes life easier if I don't have to think about moving my arm over to a certain location, just keep doing what I naturally want to do. So I've removed the first lot of tact switches, now it's time to actually test putting in the new switches, and because they only have 2 legs instead of the normal 4 legs that these switches have, I'm going to go really carefully. I'm also going to tape them down so they don't move when I switch the board over, because the last thing I want to do is actually have to bend over all those legs and give the next person that works on this board in about another 10 years or so the same headache that I've had. So it looks like we're done, and as far as I can see, the job's a good one. So we'll move across to the big board. Now, by this point, as I said, I've sort of refined my technique. I'm using a soldering iron and a wood skewer to actually bend up the pins, and then I'll do a final suck of the solder to get them loose. You'll notice there's a few what are called bodge wires on the board on the top there, so obviously either AKAI, when they designed the board, forgot to run some traces to some of the tact switches, or however they actually did the board design, there was just no way to run that, so they soldered 2 wires on. I'll need to take some photos again to make sure I know where those wires go and how to put them back. I'll take it off because there's no way to sort of unsolder the tact switches without melting the wire, and then we'll put it back on later. So I hate to say it, but this is going to have to be the end of part 1. Obviously, I'm just going to go through and desolder a lot of tact switches at this point. I've got many more hours of footage to actually edit down and share with you, and I hope to get that done within about the next week or 2, and we'll have the other episode then. Until then, I hope you found it entertaining, and if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. Other than that, I'll chat to you next time. Thanks for watching.